Hello and welcome to a recording episode for the Freeway Tribe. I'm Andrea Abert. I'm the mother of the Freeway Tribe. I have 8 children. We're full-time RVing around the country, living a life outside the matrix as much as possible. And that has to do with how we live our life, how we work, how we view health, and how we live stress-free. And how we unschool our children, all the things. And today I have Dr. Christina Parks, who is has a PhD in cellular and molecular biology. She's a dear and close friend of mine. I'm honored to know her and have her in my aura. She is one of America's frontline doctors. She did her graduate research in cytokine storm. So that has to do with how our toxic environment, or just our environment in general, what's injected into us, what we're breathing in our air, what we're eating, how it affects our genes, how genes are turned on and off. And the reason we're having this conversation today is we had a really great recording about a year ago where Dr. Christina came on and she was talking about protocols for V injury. And it was really, really fascinating. And we talk a lot about NRF2 activation. If you follow myself or Dr. Christina Parks, you'll understand how important the NRF2 pathway is. And I will put a link into our previous recording so you can go watch that. But today, we want to talk about another layer of activated healing and how it's addressing cellular issues and root cause issues that I think is very, very important for you to know about. And we're going to be talking about today not just NRF2 activation, but a combination of when you combine it with activated collagen, which is probably brand new. You've probably never heard of activated collagen before. But when you combine those two together, what's happening in the body is very, very incredible. And it's because our body's miraculous. All we're doing is giving it the tools it needs to do its thing. So without further ado, Dr. Christina, I'm so happy to have you here. Ever since I heard the little rumors of your research, your latest research, I was like, I need to have my friend back on and share this with the world. So can you start, before we started recording, you were talking about chronic immune activation. And I think that's a new term for many people. A lot of people know about autoimmune disorders, autoimmune disease, but we don't hear about chronic immune activation. Can we start there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're seeing just a huge rise in autoimmune diseases, especially among our children. And I really wanted to get to the root causes because, as we know, that's what we're all about, like cellular healing. How do we know what's really going on? And there were a lot of hypotheses about what's causing autoimmune disease, but I really did a deep dive into the literature, the scientific literature. And what I found was that when you keep activating the immune system, you actually cause it to go haywire. And in fact, you have cells, your T cells, right? Those should be familiar to you after this whole pandemic that we've had, because your T cells actually attack pathogens. But when you chronically stimulate your immune system, your T cells are like, whoa, I feel like I'm whacked out. I'm not sure if I'm attacking the good guys or the bad guys, so I'm just not going to do anything. And so they just start doing nothing. Well, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to attack pathogens, and they're supposed to attack cancer. So if your T cells aren't attacking pathogens, you're getting everything that comes down the pipe. And if it's not attacking cancerous cells, then if you have any kind of cancer, it's actually just going to explode and blow up. So that can be extremely concerning. But if you continue past that point to continue to stimulate your immune system, and after the T cells have kind of said, hey, I'm not doing anything anymore, it actually causes your body to make antibodies to itself. It just whacks out the whole immune system, and it causes your immune system to make antibodies against the cell. So that's really, really concerning. But there's a positive side to that, because the positive side is there are many things that could be causing this chronic immune activation. Like some people have a leaky gut, and every time they eat, they're stimulating their immune system. And so they're going to have chronic immune activation because they have leaky gut. Some people might have a viral activation. Some people might have heavy metals that they were exposed to that are in their body that are chronically activating the immune system. So there's a lot of different potential causes for chronic immune activation. But the good news is if you walk back that chronic immune activation, if you stop stimulating the immune system chronically, or some people just can't shut it down. They might be vitamin D deficient. They may have certain gene susceptibilities, so they're not shutting down that chronic immune activation. So any way that you can walk it back, you are going to help your autoimmune issues go away or go into remission. Okay, so that's the important thing. If you heal your gut, you're going to do it. if you stop this virus from being reactivated, if you detox from heavy metals, so if you address what's causing them, and sometimes you might not know, but you can address sort of all of them step by little step by little step. And so trying to sort of rebalance the immune system to where it's not shut off completely, but it's not hyperactivated, is really something that's really important. And one of the things I want to say about immune activation, when we see things like eczema that can be autoimmune, and we see things like some people have had myocarditis, what we're seeing with a lot of these is, and we saw this in COVID when people were really sick in their lungs, their body had all this immune activation that was telling these immune cells to go to where it is. That's what causes like that rosacea and the eczema, is the immune cells sort of infiltrating your tissues. That's what causes myocarditis, the immune cells infiltrating your tissues. And so when they infiltrate your tissues, it causes inflammation, and it can cause all of these other bad side effects. And so we want to walk that back. We don't want immune cells chronically infiltrating our tissues unless they're trying to attack something that's really there. But right now, in chronic immune activation, they're attacking nothing. It's like somebody told them that there was something wrong, and so they're going to attack something, and then there's nothing there, or they start attacking your own tissues. So when I looked at our collagen,
This is so wild.
Nope, go ahead.
So let me back up just a little bit. We have the chronic immune activation is triggering that cytokine storm in our body, turning off and on cellular responses, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and it could be, and this is the most important thing, I think, because you mentioned things that seem totally unrelated. Like you mentioned eczema and you mentioned myocarditis. And so people tend to think those are two completely different things. If you went to an allopathic doctor, he'd probably give you two totally different prescriptions, a drug for eczema and a drug for your myocarditis. But we're saying that at the cellular level, it's the same thing. And just based on each genetic makeup, the storm is going to manifest in a different way.
Right, or it can be dependent on what's causing it, right? Right. So we know
Yes.
that as per the CDC, that some of the injections that were given, we know that that is causing myocarditis in young people, especially young boys. And as per, I work with Dr. Peter McCullough, as per his work, and Dr. Ryan Cole showed that there were immune cells infiltrating the heart tissue that should not be there, that's causing chronic inflammation that's not going away. And so, the thing is, how do you shut down that inflammation? It's a really complex problem. And again, I wanted to get to the root, not specifically what part of the body is it in, but in general, what shuts it down. And the thing is, anytime you shut down that chronic immune activation, you're going to do better. Now, in the case where the body is making a foreign protein, you have another level of complexity. So that is going to be a little bit harder. But for most of us, anything we can do to dial down that immune response is going to be helpful. And so with the collagen, first of all, I want to go back and talk about collagen just a little bit, right? Because like
I love it.
people thought, oh, it's just cosmetic. I'm like, no, because what it's doing for your skin and generating elasticity and pulling in moisture and all of those things it's doing for everything. And I'm 53. So, and you've had how many children? A lot,
8 children.
right? Right. So,
Yes. Let me tell you something real quick. I have to go back and dig my before and after pictures. I have awful stretch marks from my first son. Like I just completely grew so big, and I was in the 90s, early 2000s, where you counted calories and you avoided bad fats, and so I didn't have that elasticity. My stretch marks are like night and day. They're almost completely gone after 8 babies. It's insane.
well, and the thing is, it's not just the stretch marks on the outside. So, many women don't talk about problems that they might have with their reproductive system, because all of those ligaments, all of those tissues that are inside you, they kind of get worn out and they kind of lose their elasticity. And, we do have women who have things like uterine prolapse, right? Because things are not tight and they're
Yes.
not elastic anymore. And so people don't talk about what the collagen is doing for all your tissues and organs that are on the inside by increasing elasticity, by allowing those ligaments and the tissues to rejuvenate themselves. So collagen and in your joints and everything else. So collagen is the glue that holds your body together, and it is structurally what sort of allows your body to be mobile, to have flexibility and clean movement in your joints, and also in your spinal column, in your vertebrae. So there's so many things that collagen is doing, and it's bringing it's hydrating everything. It's bringing liquid into all of your tissues, which is always a good thing, right? I mean, unless you're super bloated or something, but it's bringing it's hydrating all your tissues as well. So collagen itself, like when I learned we had a collagen, I was super excited, and then when we saw the pictures of everybody, like you said, like it was like, seems to be doing way more than just, what a collagen would do. And we knew it's an activated collagen. When they came out with this report, I'm someone who knows what different genes are. And so I didn't know what all of them were. And they showed the impact of the collagen and the NR2 together on gene expression. I started crying. Like we're at a national convention
Oh
and
my
I'm crying,
goodness.
whatever. I was crying.
That's how passionate she is.
Because I have been
Yeah.
looking for this answer of something that would walk back this immune activation, this chronic immune activation. And it's called like a cell danger response, where your body sort of ramps up because they think there's something to fight against, and that's why you're having this chronic immune activation. But it isn't, so it ends up fighting against you. And so I wanted something that was going to ramp down that cell danger response. And as I saw the genes that were being inhibited, I saw that this was doing exactly what I needed something to do in people, or what we needed something to do, which is ramping down this cell danger response, which is ramping down this chronic immune activation. And so I was like, I felt like this could help so many people by bringing that. The immune system has gotten way out of whack, by bringing it back into balance. So I'm not trying to treat something or cure something or anything like that. All this is doing is actually turning on your genes, or in this case, turning them down, bringing them back into balance. And I think that that's the most important thing. There's so many medications or different things that, they do one thing, they turn this on really well, or they turn that off really well. This is more like, sort of bringing things back to the way they should be, back into balance, so that it's not hyper activated, right? So it's not shutting off your immune system. No, it's just bringing it back into balance in a way that reduces inflammation and reduces that chronic immune activation, which is cytokine activation. And so, when you look at the genes that are downregulated, some of them are very inflammatory cytokines, and they're the ones, it's downregulating these signaling molecules, these cytokines that tell immune cells to go to the tissues. So when we're talking about something like eczema or rosacea or different things where the immune cells are in your skin or in your tissues or whatever, it's telling them not to keep asking immune cells to come to the area, because there's no need for them. They're not supposed to be there, right? And so it's saying, no, you're not supposed to be there. Go back to where you came from. Go back to what you were supposed to be doing. So that's
Is this the same as the fight or flight? Is this the same as the fight or flight, like turning down that fight or flight mode that our bodies are in?
No, it's actually completely
It's
different. Fight or flight comes from a
So
different
this is
area of
because
the body.
Can you explain to me, because there was a study with the Nerf2 and collagen that just was showing that it activates these genes that tells you, like, it's okay. It takes off that fight or flight mode and tells your body
Right.
it's
Well,
okay.
it does it, I would
relax.
say, at a cellular level. Like generally, your fight or flight is going to be governed by your adrenal glands. So with like epinephrine and norepinephrine. No, but this is at the cellular level, so it doesn't involve the same hormones, but it's turning off the danger response. So you've got, we all remember, like, what was that? Danger, danger, Will Robinson. Like, your cells are going, danger, danger, danger. And they're sending out all of these molecules that are telling the police to come. They're telling the T cells and the B cells, they're telling, danger, danger, please come here. Your immune cells are your police, right? And then you get all these police, and you got like 5,000 police in the neighborhood. And have you ever tried to get in your neighborhood when something's going on? You can't even get to your house because they've got blockades, and you're like, I don't even know what's going on. And so that reduces the amount of communication and actual normal function. So think about it that way. When you've got all of these immune cells or police around, it's congested, you don't have normal function, but they don't need to be there. There's not actually anything happening. It's the kid who keeps pulling the fire alarm, or we know how it is these days when a threat is made, that everyone has to respond to the threat. And so it keeps responding to this threat alert that's not real. And so that's the sort of danger signal that it's giving. And so they're like, turn off the fire alarm, turn off the threat thing so the police can go home, so the rest of us can get back to
Yeah.
daily life. Because when there's been a threat, somewhere at your school or whatever, everything shuts down, nothing normal happens. And so we want to get your cells back to daily life, shut down that threat alert, reduce inflammation, and allow the cell to put its energy to normal functions. And to, those immune cells cause a ton of inflammation. And when they go home and they're not there, secreting their inflammatory cytokines, that inflammation of those tissues is going to go down, allow those tissues to go back to normal functioning. And so that's what that collagen is doing. It's turning off that threat alert in your cells so that the police don't come, because there's no need for them right now. And the cells can go back to normal functioning.
Wow. So is that one, I find it almost difficult because we have so much goodness. We spoke before about NRF2 pathway, and I know that pathway is so powerful. We always explain to people that it's foundational. And I know you would say the same, that it's just the most important, the single most important thing we can do. Right? Just
Yes.
to be healthy, just to repair our cells. And then anything we layer on top of that is just added goodness. And so there's studies on, for example, we were talking about myocarditis, and I would like to go into that a little bit more, that particular reaction, just because we are seeing so much of it today. And I think that's in a lot of people. I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, can you ask her about myocarditis, because we're just seeing it affect so many people. But it's something that also affected us before 2020, right? It's one of the leading cause of death is heart disease. But before that, we were also seeing studies on NRF2 and heart health, and they're really incredible. They're really profound, getting the mitochondria to go. What is your kind of go-to for people when they want to put out this storm? Do you go to the mitochondria? Do you go to the gut? Do you go to the NRF2 pathway? Do you go to the collagen? Like, what seems to be your kind of take this?
So, yeah, it's a little bit complex. I, generally ask a lot of questions. But NRF2 is always, reducing that inflammation is always going to be key. In people who have this cell danger response, a lot of times they have an elevated histamine reaction because the immune system is kind of whacked out. So some of us are naturally histamine sensitive. I am. If you have a mosquito bite and it swells really big, like you'll remember that from childhood, you're histamine sensitive. And if you have a lot of sinus problems, you might be histamine sensitive. When your immune system is dysregulated, even people who normally weren't histamine sensitive can actually react to everything. You hear people keep getting food allergies, or they suddenly have an onset of food allergies, and everything affects them. So first of all, if that's the case, I love our daily wellness, because that helps to reduce your histamine response and help regulate the gut. Because remember, if you have leaky gut, you have chronic immune activation. So I like to reduce histamine and get that gut signaling on track. And so I love the NRF2 and the daily wellness package. If they don't have any histamine issues whatsoever, I might put them, and they think they might have some autoimmune issues, then I think that the collagen and the NRF2 is a great place to start, if they're tolerating that really well. If they do have some histamine issues, I like to do the daily wellness and then add the collagen. And then, of course, it's always budget dependent, but you've got to have that NRF1, because if, the spike protein, whether you had it from COVID or from other sources, the spike protein is really, really hard on your mitochondria. And we know that if you're, anywhere beyond the age of 30, most likely you have mitochondrial dysfunction, whether it's toxins, environmental insults, whatever it is, your mitochondria have probably been stressed to the point where they're not functioning optimally. So getting the mitochondria up and running is really important. But because producing energy causes inflammation, you always want to start with that NRF2. Reduce that inflammation first. If they have autoimmunity, you might want to add that collagen sooner. But you're always going to want to be on the NRF2, then the NRF1, and the collagen, depending on if it's implicated as far as autoimmunity. Now, even if it's not, we know there's so many benefits, and it's going to turn down inflammation and keep balancing that immune system for all of us, because we all can use that. And what many of the practitioners I've worked with, they say, 85% of people had post-COVID syndrome. They may not have
Hmm.
recognized it. It may just have been a little brain fog, but when you looked at their biochemical markers, when you looked at their gut health, they all were struggling. And so some of them were struggling subclinically, which means it wasn't bad enough that they felt like, oh, I really got to go do something about this or go to the doctor. There weren't, overt signs. But we know that a lot of times you struggle with something, sort of at a low level for a long time, and then an event or a sickness or something causes you to spiral. So by not dealing with it, you are predisposing yourself to, one stressful event, making your whole system sort of spiral out of control. So I think the point being is that all of us need to, sort of take control of our health, reduce inflammation, address our gut health. And as you know, we have an amazing gut health line that we're not even getting into today.
Yeah.
And collagen is amazing for your gut health, right? And that it's reducing that cell danger response, it's probably doing that in your intestines as well, because you're taking the NRF2 and the collagen orally. Excuse me. So that's probably doing amazing things for your gut health. So I think that, taken
Oh my
together,
goodness.
the key things, NRF2, NRF1, collagen for all of us are going to be super helpful. And I love the daily wellness.
I just love and appreciate you. I know we all do because we if you're not a nerd when you come into this activation company, you become a nerd in the process. You just fall in love with the science, but a lot of us can appreciate and understand it, but I don't think to the level that you do. And so I really appreciate that someone of your caliber and your education and your background and your passion can look at this and just affirm to us you're on the right page. This is exactly what you need to do. We're looking at the cells, we're looking at root cause, and it just gets me fired up. Like, honestly, when I heard about you talking about this combination with NRF2 and collagen, I got so excited because, like you, we're seeing incredible things, just incredible stories, and you can see the visuals are remarkable. But then again, I tell people, if that's happening on the outside, imagine what's happening on the inside. And it truly is
Right.
incredible.
Well, and I think, I get excited because actually, like, sometimes I talk to doctors or different people, and some people, they are a little overwhelmed by the science. But as you said, like, people in this company don't seem to get overwhelmed, even if they don't completely understand it. They're like, but I'm going to. Like, the more times you hear it, like, many of us had to, you had to listen to those NRF2 videos quite a few times. But then, you've got a lot of people that are actually reading the studies and things like that. So I actually love having an audience that is super interested in the science because, at some point you can only dumb it down so much, right? And you're like, well, what am I really even saying at this point? So I love being able to explain the science and just again to let people know. And I really, when I found out about our signature products, I was like, I have to join this business. I actually felt a moral obligation to tell people this is the real thing because there's so much out there. And it's not that even those things are bad, or it's just that there's nothing
There's a
like
lot of
what we
noise.
have. Yeah, there's a lot of noise, and there's nothing like what we have. And we all have to make our investments in our time, our money, and in our health. And so to know that we're putting that time and that money into something that's going to give us the greatest return is really important. And so I have never wavered, since I joined the company. I never wanted to sell anything, and I don't really look at it as selling. I really look at it as giving people the information and the opportunity to know where they can best place their resources to get the most maximal return on their investment in their health. And it's exciting because
I love that.
it's changed my life. You know, it's really changed my life in so many different ways, and I just feel like it was a gift from God. And when I found out about our products and NRF2, I knew what NRF2 was because I was already doing a deep dive into root causes. And I thought if we could only activate that gene, and then to have 2 months later a student come to me and say, hey, what is this? And I looked at it, 5 natural ingredients. It activates NRF2. It activates your detox antioxidant response. Are you kidding me? Like, I was already recommending it to my mother, my sister,
Wow.
before my product even came in the mail. And so I said, I have an obligation to
Amazing.
tell people that this is for real. This is the real thing. And to watch my health be transformed And, I lost 30 pounds without trying at 50, so like that in
Yes.
itself is an amazing gift. So to be able to, and I think I struggle with my health, and the worst thing about it is I was really never able to experience a lot of joy because there was so much pain that I experienced on a daily basis and fatigue. And I think I probably would be diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue,
Oh my
metabolic
goodness.
syndrome. Even though I was super proactive with my health and I knew all of the science and I was doing pretty
Yes.
much everything right. And this changed everything because suddenly I had a sense of well being. Like to me, it's like living without having a sense of well being is like missing the whole point. And so
I
I
only
don't
know
even have to
you
be doing
post
anything.
activation.
I can be just sitting
And to
there
me,
with a,
you're
a
like a
cup of tea.
bubbly, joyful. Sorry, I'm talking over
Yeah.
you. I was gonna say you're just like a bubbly, joyful ball of energy every time I see you, but I only know you post activation. So it's funny for me to think of you as like being tired or not having energy.
No, and people came up to me after I'd been activated a year, after 2 years, and said, I knew you 2 years ago. I knew you 5 years ago, and you have changed dramatically. And I said, well, I lost some weight. And they're like, no, it's not. It's not the weight, and that's what it is. It's that energy
Wow.
coming up. It's that sense of well-being, and with a sense of well-being, it gives you peace, and it gives you the ability to reflect on things and make internal decisions. Because like when you're struggling so much, you can't even do that. You're just trying to survive the day. You're just trying to survive the day.
Yes.
And I spent most of my life, I have a really strong will. I didn't get a PhD without that. It took 8 years, 12 years altogether, right? For undergrad and graduate school.
Love it.
So I had a really strong will of pushing through. But pushing through is not living life. Living life is
Yes.
having a sense of well-being, having energy, and having peace, and having that excitement and motivation. So to feel that well-being is just one of the biggest gifts that I've given myself, and that anyone can give themselves. And so that, because it takes time for your body to detox, but you know what? Like our bodies were meant to have a sense of well-being. And so when we can detox and then activate our own wellness pathways, um, that is just one of the most amazing things ever. And so that is the gift that we're giving to people. And that's why I can't like let go. I have to keep telling people about it because I can't guarantee everybody's going to have the same result, or whatever. But we know the biochemistry is going to look good, right? So,
Yes.
and when you go to like, we have a great team in West Michigan. When you go to there's so much help, so much vitality, because everybody has a sense of well-being. So you're bringing a great group of people together who all feel great and who are all super excited, and it's just a wonderful thing to see.
We'll be up there in August, so I think I will like to see that in person. I have to visit you guys.
Yeah, we often
There's
have, like, we were having collagen sipping parties, and then one of our consultants, her husband actually sings. So he's over like playing the guitar and singing, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is a great,
he's
a great
activated.
afternoon party. Yeah.
One thing I would love to share just before we close out is because I never want people to think, oh, that's too complicated. I can't take it. Or I have to do some research before I put that in my body. Or I'm not a cellular molecular biologist. What I love about activation is we have all this heavy science. The easiest analogy I can give is like you can have the most incredible theologians try to discuss something like the mystery of the Trinity, and they can go on and on and on and on and on, and it's fascinating and it's deep and it's true, and truly you can never really answer those questions. It's just such a big thing. But then you can have someone with childlike faith say, one person, one God, three persons, like they can just find the most simple
Yeah.
analogy. It's like this childlike faith, and they're like, that just makes sense. Oh, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, and they each have this role, and it's not a mystery to them. And I feel like that's what NRF2 is for someone like me, because I'm not a cellular and molecular biologist. I went to culinary school. I started going down the rabbit hole of natural health when I had my first cesarean section and struggled with secondary infertility, and just started learning little by little by little. And to me, this just makes sense. It shows to me like I'm very empathetic. I'm very faith driven, and something like this, Dr. Christina Parks, makes perfect sense to me. It's just like, of course, there's a solution. Like whatever they throw at us, whatever is going on in our toxic world, whatever fear they throw at us, there's always a solution. And when I saw this, I was like, and that's it. And this is it. Like it was just a complete knowing. And then once I got in the company, and I've been in it for 5 years, so I've started to really dive in. And so I know a lot. I can have a conversation with you and follow you, but it didn't start that way. And so I want people to
Right.
understand, like, it's very simple. You're not, it's 5 Ayurvedic herbs in very low dosages that turns on these pathways, not forces them. And then
Right.
in our last interview, you were like, and then it goes bing, and the whole body does what it's supposed to do.
Maybe
And
explain that
to
that
me,
quick,
that makes
but
sense.
yes, because you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and this is just activating the
Amen.
pathways that God already put in you. And that's what my passion is instead of doing all of these drugs that block this or activate that, um, is actually supporting the body in healing itself, because I do believe we're fearfully, wonderfully made, and the answers are already in us. We just have to, reduce our toxic load by not exposing ourselves as much, but also activate those pathways in us. And when you see people, and I think that seeing the people and seeing the effects, and like I won't see a consultant that's under me for like a year, and then when I see her, I'm like, you look 5 years younger. Like, I mean, it's
Wow.
really visually apparent when you haven't seen someone as long. And when my upline, Holly um, Tomet, started taking the collagen, she hadn't been on it a month, and they wouldn't tell us what it was, right? And we were just on a
Yes.
Zoom call, and we're like, we can see the difference in your face.
Something's
What
up.
are you taking? So it was so impactful when you see not just the physical, visual, but actually, as you said, the energy, the well-being that people have. When you see that, it wakes up in you to realize that this is what we were meant for. This is what we were created for. This is our birthright as children of God, to
Amen.
be fully healthy. And He created us that way, and that we can come back to that. And so, there's a lot of things out there promising a lot of things, but really none of them. And we do, these are 5 natural herbs. So we do have a lot of herbs that activate it a little bit, and things in our food. And most of us are doing that, trying to eat a really healthy, nutrient-rich diet. But these were developed specifically for their ability to turn on this antioxidant detox pathway. And with the collagen, it's like a God thing. I mean, really, because the company didn't even expect it to do what it did in terms of turning down that cell danger response and balancing the immune system. That was just like God saying, I know you guys are all whacked out, so here you go.
Yes.
like, as you
Yes.
said, it's sort of an
Yes.
answer to a collective
A
prayer,
little
right?
bonus. A little bonus.
Yeah.
Amen. Yes. Oh my gosh, I have all the feelings. And another thing I want to say, because I'm a mother of 8. We have a budget, and we know that living in this world, you anything that's good for you, you're going to pay out of pocket. If you want to go to a chiropractor, if you want to go to a holistic dentist, if you want to have your mercury fillings removed, if you want to have a thermography, whatever it is you want that's natural in your life, if you want to eat organic foods, it is going to cost a boatload of money. Again, 8 kids. So maxed out. I always like to invite people to look at the business opportunity. So reach out to Dr. Parks, reach out to me. We would love to show you what it looks like to do the business side. Literally, like the way we feel a moral obligation to share it. We are passionate about it. We're going to share it whether you like it or not. So I always like to invite people to reach out, let not just, okay, maybe I'll take this in my body, but reach out to us and ask, like, well, what does it look like on the other side? Because I'm sure you can count a handful of people that need this in their body. And wouldn't it be great if you can just get your products paid for or start creating a side income like our family has been able to do? It's been an absolute
So
blessing.
I never considered selling anything, much less getting into a business that's like multi-level marketing. But I knew this was real, and I felt like I had been like the person who got on in the iPhone on its baseline, right? Because this was my thing. I'm not a techie person, but this was my thing. I knew what these genes were. I was like, this is a no-brainer. I have to do this, even though I've never wanted to do marketing or sales or anything like. And I saw it as educating people and just telling them this is for real. But the thing is, right now, this is my income. And over 2 years ago, I got a divorce, and it kind of came by as a surprise. And I ended up moving out, still paying for my son's college, And I was basically making a website and speaking all over the country, mostly for free. Like last year, I itemized $45,000 in work-related expenses. So that's
Wow.
a lot of mostly travel, like a lot of travel and different things. And um, but LifeVantage has pretty much been paying for so much of that. And I haven't even been the person who's like singularly business minded, because business is not really my thing. I go talk about the product and like what comes
Passion
comes. And
first.
yeah, so I've been just following my passion and trusting God to provide. And fortunately, like a lot of people came in under me and were like, well, we trust that you know the science, and we have an amazing team, because people skills are just as important. So there are other people that said, well, let me organize the
Yes.
people. And they organize the people. So like what I'm saying is that I followed my passion, and this allowed me to follow my passion without worrying about the bills, even so much so as paying for my son's college. And so to be able to do something that's completely consistent with all of the other areas that I have my hands into, and have it pay the bills, and you're helping people, like it's just such a no-brainer.
Wow.
Like it's just such a
You
no-brainer
know,
to be
this
like,
this actually
yeah,
makes me think of a quote by Robert Kiyosaki, and he says something like the paycheck is the drug they keep you to forget about your dreams, to keep chasing that paycheck, you know. But
right,
you can't worry about what you're most passionate about, and this is just the reverse. And from my own perspective, this has brought my husband, who's an executive chef, home with our family. So we've been traveling the country 2 years. Life with two parents is, in my opinion, the traditional way of how it was supposed to be, how it was back in the day when everyone had a farm. It was the family together doing life. It was never meant for fathers to be away all day long like they are, let alone mother and father being, gone all the
right.
time. It was always this sort of family unit, and it brings it back, and just can't say enough about it. Anyway, you guys have got to check it out, got to look into it. I hope that this gave you peace of mind with maybe some health issues that are going on in your body, and you're going to look into activation. Reach out. We have a simple tool, a little video to share with you to explain it a little more and get you started on experiencing what an activated life is like. So with that, I'd like to close it out. Dr. Christina, thank you so much for joining me this morning. You're always just a wealth of information. I just appreciate and value you, and we're just so grateful for you.
Thank you. I hope
I
I
will.
helped everyone understand things a little bit better. And if you're not activated and you don't have that sense of well-being, it is the biggest gift that you can give yourself.
100%. Thank you so much. God bless.
God bless.